Welcome to another episode of Through the Web with me, your host, Tawsif.
And me, Dagogo.
And again, we have a very special episode because this one's going to be a different concept that we want to tackle. We're going to talk about overrated and underrated things in the world of tech, media, business, culture, internet, food.
Many things. Food, okay.
I don't know.
Oh, sure.
Pepsi, overrated, underrated. Coke Zero.
Definitely overrated.
Coke
and
Zero.
Coke Zero. Overrated.
Dude, underrated. Coke Zero is underrated.
It doesn't taste like any, like...
Okay, so why is it overrated?
Why is it overrated?
Yeah, why is Coke Zero overrated?
Because I feel like it just doesn't taste right. Like, just compared to the regular Coke. And even, maybe I'm just picky because I think Coke in a bottle, like a plastic bottle, tastes completely different from glass Coke.
It does.
Yeah. So I just feel like Coke Zero just tastes wrong to me. And I just don't feel it's that good. That's
I just feel Coke Zero actually tastes better than Coke. And therefore, there are people who have never tried it because it's called Coke Zero, and they're listening to opinions like yours and will never try it, and therefore it's underrated because there are lots of people who are missing out on this great journey of Coke Zero.
Does that sound biased to you?
No, not at all. So you say overrated, I say underrated.
Yeah.
We gotta go back to the comments on this one to decide. But from the tech front of things, you've got a few topics. Well, we've got a few topics, and we're gonna just go, through them one by one and list our opinions on them. So, what's the first one?
First one is the Pixel Watch.
Ooh, okay. Do I start?
Yeah, you can start since you have one. Overrated or underrated?
Okay, I'll set some pretext saying, obviously, as you mentioned, that I do have one. I've been using it for, I think, a month and a half, 2 months now. Well, probably a month and a half. Pretty much ever since it came out. I would actually say it's underrated.
Okay,
I would say it's underrated because the first week of reviews that I saw of the Pixel Watch, there were quite a few. I would say it was 50-50. There was some really negative ones and some okay positive ones. But the negative ones that they were talking about, essentially, if I, again, took those reviews as face value, I probably would have, thought that, this watch isn't for me. But at the end of the day, for my use, the way I use it, it's perfect. It has been very good. It's everything that I needed from it. It's got it. Again, granted, I guess the price point could have, because I had some price off when I got it, but again, to pay the full price of it could dictate if you feel if it's overrated or underrated. So maybe if you're looking at the retail value of it, I'd probably say it was just about okay rated. But generally, I would say it's underrated.
Okay.
It's just a little bit underrated, not too much.
Okay, interesting. I obviously don't have a Pixel Watch, but just from what I'm hearing, it seems to be a little, okay, tell me if you agree, but a little bit fragmented in terms of its software implementation. Would you say that's...
Again, I've always used Fitbit.
Yeah, okay.
And the integration with Fitbit has been seamless. Right. So for me, it was the perfect, intro to it. So, and I think this is where when you want to get a piece of tech, how does it suit your life, specific needs is what comes into play. But then again, I guess if I take my personal self out of it, and then you say, okay, you have this blank user and he or she needs a watch. Is this watch worth that? Then maybe I think there would be some concerns, because I guess an Apple Watch, okay, here's an Apple phone, here's an Apple Watch, it works seamlessly. You can start from scratch, no problem. But here you got to think, here's Fitbit, you got to get premium access to. Here's the Google Pixel Watch, and here's the Pixel phone, but it also works on Android, and some Androids a bit doesn't connect. So yeah, I think from that perspective, you're probably right. It could be a big fragment.
Okay. And the battery life, I think we discussed that you said it was okay for you.
Yeah, it was completely fine. And that's only because I don't use the always on mode, which a lot of people do use on their Apple phones that I know. If I had it always on, I know that for a fact that it won't last 24 hours, but I've never had it on always on anyway. So
okay. So those are I guess, two pretty big things, you know, for the average user, but it just so happens that you use it in a way that works for you. But I would say if we measure the hype of this product, I think a lot of people were expecting maybe not like perfection from Google's first smartwatch, but it's been rumored for so long and then it finally coming out and it being just okay. I think so the hype to what you get ratio. So I think it's, maybe a little bit overrated. Yeah. So I obviously I don't have one, but just from, I guess, seeing what other people are talking about and just some of the specs and the issues that people are having, obviously for you it's worked very well, but I think for the average person it might be a bit overrated, especially for the price that you're paying. So
yeah,
I think that's the way.
Yeah, I think I'll rephrase my take in that case. For me, for my use case, it's been underrated because I'd recommend this to anyone who want to get into the same level of things that I wanted out of a smartwatch. But I would have to agree with you that for the price point, for the hype, for everything being Google, such a big name in the industry now, along with when they acquired Fitbit, I think it's a little bit overrated. But again, just probably just a little bit because it's a good quality product in general. The feel of it, the stainless steel and everything. It's been pretty solid at how it feels and stuff like that as well. So I think it's a first gen phone, first gen smartwatch. It's done not reasonably bad. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that's our take.
Okay. Interesting. So I guess you've got the next topic.
That's right. The next one is nothing. And by that, I mean nothing phones.
Yeah, this one. So remember when it first got announced and there was all that press about it and people were like, wow, it's going to be something big, right? And then within 2 weeks to a month, no one's heard of it anymore, I think it was really a hype product because the only thing that really differentiated it was its clear back and that design, and also obviously those lights that synced up with the ringtone. But when you strip that away, what makes it different from anything else? I think it's still an Android phone running pretty good, okay software. It's I think Carl Pei was his name. Yeah, he was saying that the engineering team put a lot of work into making that software run smoothly, and that's great, but a lot of other phones run smoothly now too on Android as well. So I really think that when you strip away all the hype, which we have done now with time, I think it's just another phone with some lights on the back. So I'd definitely say it's overrated.
Harsh.
Well, okay, you tell me. What's
yeah, I'd have to say it's a little bit overrated as well.
A little bit. Okay. We need degrees of.
I know. It's probably 5 degrees.
Out of 10? Okay.
I would say it's a little bit overrated, only because I feel, again, because I haven't used it personally, but overall, I think it's tough to market a phone in this where we are in this world right now. The smartphone revolution, when everything happened, that big boom a decade or so ago, you had that opportunity that if you wanted to get into that phone business, that okay, I could have my USP or the value proposition of this phone being X, Y, or Z. Right now, that is so narrow, is that there's nothing you can do to really differentiate a phone.
That
is, sorry?
Foldables, like...
I mean, again, that's probably another good topic for overrated or underrated.
Let's go off the beaten track. Okay. After this one,
okay. But even things like that, I feel, is not it's not revolutionary, right? Or is not in a way that's changing the way people connect to their smartphones or use the technology. And I feel we've seen that. I think that revolution is either has ended or is close to being ended. Like there's no...
It's a mature market. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So on that level, on that front, I think being a smartphone company and still having some level of market, I feel they've done a good job. But the product itself, I would say, is a little bit overrated because at its true core self, there isn't a lot except just being a phone. Yeah.
With lights, right? So it's not. It's true. There's not much else. It's it's an iPhone copy with a clear back and lights. It's not. Yeah. But yeah, I think, yes, CarPay did do a good job of marketing the phone in this day and age, because to get people excited about a new smartphone is extremely hard. But it didn't change the fact of what it was. So I don't know, like what could, just if we're brainstorming, what do you think you could do to a smartphone to really make it stand out from the crowd?
That's what I mean. There actually isn't a lot of ways that you could do it, right? I think the biggest leap probably was, some phone companies thinking that, let's take out all the buttons, or let's go all glass, or let's go fully transparent. Like those are really aesthetic choices. Functionality, like from a functional perspective, there actually isn't a lot that you can do anymore. Maybe except battery life. I think if you have like a really, really supercharging battery, I don't know, 10-minute charge or something, and that would again revolutionize how people use the smartphone. But again, that's just, like some people are okay charging it once a day.
Yeah, I see. But I think there's some other things that you could do that would just be extremely capitally expensive and may not work out. So, for example, you could have, I think LG did try to do this, but where you could have like modules. So, for example, on the end of the phone, you could have like a little Bluetooth speaker accessory that plugs in that's like yay big, but has a big sound kind of thing. Or you could have a camera module that you could slip on, or, if you want to replace the chip, that would be extremely hard. But like if you make the pins robust enough and dustproof, maybe you could do that. But these things, like, they're going to cost hundreds of millions probably to work out, or not, maybe tens of millions to work out properly. It's going to be expensive, and it's such a risk because it's like, is anyone going to buy this? So I think there are things to do, but it's just too risky for anyone to really take that opportunity. But speaking of opportunities and risk and people taking them, foldables. What do you?
So by foldables, you mean the folded phones? That
So like so this or the Z. I mean the what's the Samsung's main, the big one, the Fold. It's called the Fold. The Fold 4. No, the Z Flip is the clamshell one. Right. So yeah, the Fold 4. Is it 4 or is it 3 at the moment? I think it's 4. I think it's 4. So what do you think about foldables? Underrated or overrated?
I think they're perfectly rated, because they're just, I don't think they're being marketed as revolutionary. It is an aesthetic choice. It is, I think initially it was that, you could turn it into a tablet and do whatever. But again, how many people do actually see using a clamshell or a foldable phone in a way that's really changing the way how they use a smartphone, right? It's still, at the end of the day, just a bigger screen. And I think it could have potential use in the future for perhaps bigger products, or things from a more personal items like laptops and stuff. But from a phone perspective, I think foldables weren't really that hyped, and for that level of hype, they have served the limited purpose. There's still a market for it. Some people like it from an aesthetical point of view, maybe even from a nostalgic point of view, but that's about it. So I'd say it's perfectly rated. Yeah,
I would tend to be in the same ballpark. If there wasn't a massive amount of hype of the foldable phone phenomenon, it kind of just snuck in and people are like, that's new.
Exactly.
But in terms of use cases and it revolutionizing how you use a phone, I think if that foldables came out like 10 years ago, I would be all over it, modifying it like crazy. I think I've just kind of left phones. I'm just like, I don't really care anymore. It's like I use whatever. But there are people, and I think if I got one, maybe it would reinvigorate me again to become passionate. But there are people that use their foldables to the extreme and have like 4 different apps running at once, and just multitasking and doing notes and stuff on the go, and propping it at halfway open and just watching a video and doing something else. For example, the channel Mr. Mobile, he does a lot of this, and you can see the full functionality. You're like, wow, that is pretty cool to have in your pocket that you just can close up and put away. And this is on the Fold, not the Z Flip, so it's a tablet version, I guess. So these are the real power users. These are the people that back in the day would be browsing XDA forums and modifying their phones with different ROMs and that kind of stuff. But the market for that is quite small. But then again, there's just people that want a bigger screen without having the sacrifice of a bigger footprint. So, but all in all, I think people would just rather an iPhone.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like people's, again, the way humans have really adopted smartphones, like they're just okay with whatever's coming on. They're okay with the minimal incremental changes that's happening year on year. And again, you mentioned that one of the features that you'd love to make a comeback or really enjoyed was like
the projector,
the projector, right?
Yeah.
I think something like that would be again a good addition to an existing phone, but not the main feature that drives sales, right? You'd probably get it for just the fun of it, I'm sure.
Course. That's totally me, yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, again, things like that, again, I feel is just on the gimmicky end of things for smartphones. These are just nice to haves at this stage.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So we got perfectly rated for that. What was the next one?
Metaverse. Actually, I have Metaverse. Yeah.
Okay. I think shock horror completely overrated. Completely. Why are you?
No, go on.
Okay. Because the hype that Mark Zuckerberg, I guess, put into this was sky high. He changed his whole company name. He said this is the future, did like a huge presentation about how big the metaverse is going to be. And I don't doubt that I'm writing a script about this now. I think maybe in 5 years, we could be seeing that, like the way technology is going, we end up in this situation where there is this one mass market for the masses metaverse that everyone does virtual stuff in, and it's just all around the world. People just know of it and they go to it, and it's just the thing that people spend their virtual time in. We're going to a place like that. I think that's inevitable. But one, I think we're way too early, and two, the progress that has been made so far, I'm talking specifically about Meta as a company, has just been abysmal. It's just, you see their stock prices crashing off a cliff. Actually, I checked for this video that I'm working on, and they're back to January 2016 levels. So if you bought Meta stock after January 2016, you lost money if you held it all the way. So it's crazy. So people really don't believe in it at the moment, despite that massive... Well, I think a lot of people, the stock market thinks it's overrated as well. And I tend to agree. I think just what we've seen from Meta has just been abysmal. So it's kind of an interesting one because the potential is there off in the future, but what we have now as it stands is completely overrated.
I actually think it's underrated.
So what are you seeing?
So the reason being, over the weekend I actually had a go at the Meta Quest with the Oculus headsets.
Meta Quest?
Yeah, the platform where you could, the entire headset, the VR experience.
But that's not the metaverse though, is it?
I mean, wouldn't it be the metaverse?
No. Okay, so we should have had definitions. What I mean by metaverse isn't VR. I think VR is amazing at the moment. I think there's a lot of good VR apps like high fidelity. I actually saw someone playing what's that game? Gosh, by that like Eastern European company, and they had a massive, terrible launch. And it was Cyberpunk 2077 in VR, and it looked great, looked amazing. So that stuff is out there. I don't disagree with it. Yep. But what I'm saying is the metaverse as a philosophy and concept of a uniform, a universal place where all these people come together and they're doing and interacting in VR. There's like an economy in there, and there's things to do, and all this. It's another world within virtual reality. I think that's overrated, but VR itself, no. So what were you referring to?
Yeah, so basically I've used Oculus over the weekend, right? And just because the last time I used was ages ago, and obviously it's not perfect, but again, because of the potential, I feel that it's actually underrated, because I think that there's so much room for improvement that this is a big if, but if they get their bearings right, this could really change the way people interact with technology, because we've mentioned it in the past that VR and AR is where technology is heading. This is where, again, if you reduce the friction of getting into the metaverse, I think that's the only thing that's stopping people from getting on. And once they are on it, I feel that there's so much potential.
You're talking about friction of getting into the metaverse, but there is not really a good metaverse at the moment. Like, what are they getting into?
Yeah, I think like right now specifically there isn't a lot.
Yes.
And I think you're right in saying that the hype that they've built, just get on it now. And I think there's that mismanagement or miscommunication that everything's ready, everything's there, and they thought that people are going to just user generate the entire metaverse by themselves. But I think that hasn't happened. But I feel that if Facebook or Meta themselves or whoever decide that, okay, we're going to help build this space out for people to come in and actually interact and do whatever they have to do in a metaverse setting, I feel that there's a lot of potential through everything, actually, because after spending like 15 minutes or so, I felt that, oh, this actually could be a possibility.
Okay, so you said metaverse. I mean, Oculus Quest.
Mm-hmm.
So what activities were you doing?
Oh, it was just a like simple room that my nephew had built, and you could have, invite other friends in there. You could sit down and watch a movie. You could draw stuff, like very basic thing.
Right.
And again, this is after like probably a few years since I last used something like that. And again, I just felt like it was wonky. It wasn't perfect, but I felt that this is exactly where, like, I could understand what they're trying to do, what Zuckerberg's trying to do. And that, I guess, gave me a little bit of, a different perspective into thinking that, what, I understand where it's coming from, but the execution has been just poor. The communication has been poor.
But that's kind of where I'm coming at. Like the technology, on the technology side, there's nothing that's so egregious, but it's just the implementation that Facebook has done, which is making this, for the hype that they've given it. That's why I'm rating it completely overrated. So, is this one where we agree to disagree?
I guess we got to find a definition, or we have to agree to disagree in terms of, we have to find the definition first in terms of, okay, so what, how are we placing it in the, like, what is underrated and overrated in this case?
Okay. So we're talking about the metaverse being overrated or underrated. And by metaverse, I mean not so much the headset or maybe some of the apps that you can use within it, but like a community of global people that come together in this virtual environment and, trade commerce or do whatever they need to do or whatever. Just that idea of having this separate world apart from ours that's full of people doing whatever in VR. That's
right. Yeah. So I guess from that note, I would say it's overrated right now. If people were to just jump in right now and use it as the way that Zuckerberg's trying to sell it, where I'm saying it's underrated is the potential that I see in it, and I think once they get it right, it's going to be the place to be.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. It's just a matter of if they're going to get it right, because just the horizon. I just keep harping on about this Horizon Worlds thing.
I'm still yet to watch the video.
Yeah, just please. Like, it's just I was severely disappointed. It was it hurt my soul knowing that billions of dollars went into this project, and as I said, something really went wrong. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, okay. So you say it's underrated. I'm still going to say overrated. So. And now we come to Twitter. Do you think Twitter is underrated or overrated?
As a user, content creator, as a company?
Let's define this. Let's say as a user.
I would say it's underrated.
Okay.
I think, at least as we don't know what's going to happen with Twitter.
Did you hear?
No, what happened?
So
this is turning into
apparently there was a mass resignation.
Oh yeah, with the
at the Twitter headquarters, the projected Elon Musk hellscape.
Space Karen.
Apparently there's no one at the company at the moment. Like for the weekend, everyone's been fired, so they don't know if it's going to break or not. It's that bad. Yeah, we got to keep that for the bigger conversation.
Anyways. But in terms of Twitter itself, as a user, I would say definitely underrated, especially where we are. I think there's so much you can get out of Twitter that no other social media platform can provide you with, especially, connecting directly with, not connecting per se, but I guess engaging directly with people in certain fields or industry who are, at the top of those specific fields or industry that you can directly have conversations with, you can connect to and chat about things, and in real time, like nothing else that I've seen. There's obviously a lot of weird stuff that's on Twitter, so anywhere on the internet. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the fact that you could use Twitter in a way that they don't, they're not aware of. So yeah, it's underrated.
I would definitely agree with that because just colloquially speaking, and just when I do videos on Twitter, everyone's like, "Oh, that's just such a blah 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 blah," and it's just all woke people go there and all this kind of stuff. But there's definitely another side to it, especially when you're trying to find out information. As I said, Twitter isn't a social media network; it's an informational network. And for example, this FTX video, like there was a lot of people that were, and the thing is also on Twitter, you got to be careful with disinformation and stuff. That's one thing. But once you vet, there's like a lot of good information that comes out like right hot off the press. When Reuters writes an article, or a writer from Reuters or Wall Street Journal or something, they'll tweet about it, and then you get to see like what's happening. And it was so fun to watch the FTX story go down in real time. It's just like, what is going on here? But yeah, that kind of stuff, any other social media platform or any other platform whatsoever, you cannot get.
No.
And I think that is for everyone. I think if you're a lover of information, for sure, but I know there's a lot of people that don't really care about that. That might not be so useful to them, but maybe seeing the gossip on celebrities might be. But I think for Twitter, it's got more utility and use than people give it credit for. So I definitely go with that, underrated.
Cool. Yeah, I agree on that.
So, is this podcast overrated or underrated? You let us know. No, just kidding. So yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon for the next episode.